friend. Welcome back to another episode. I am so excited to welcome Caroline Allen, co-founder and CEO of Beam Minerals, to the show. She knows very well what it feels like to be exhausted, depleted, and completely overwhelmed, which I know a lot of you experience. After her own health took a hit during a demanding corporate career, she started searching for answers that actually made sense. And that search led her to plant-based minerals and the role that they play in energy, hydration, detoxification, and cellular health. So, sister, if you've been feeling like health has gotten so complicated, I think this conversation is going to feel honest, refreshing, and extremely doable. Caroline, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here, Dr. Brook.
I'm so excited you're here. So, first things first, I love my listeners to get a chance to get to know you, who you were before all of Beam Minerals became what it is today, and what led you down this path.
Yeah. So I was one of those people you just described. I was coming out of a corporate career, very, very intense corporate career in the tech world. And I grew up with some things like an autoimmune condition, gluten intolerance. And then over my life, I also had a bad mold exposure event. And I also had long COVID. So I've struggled with a lot of different things that really hit my system hard. But I also had 3 miscarriages. I really struggled with fertility. But at the time when I first learned about minerals, I had already spent so many thousands of dollars on my health, going to many practitioners, trying to heal all of these things. One of them was inflammation in my gut, bloating. Even though I'd been gluten-free for 7 years or so, I could never get over the bloating and the elimination issues. I tended towards constipation. I also had bad inflammation in my mouth with terrible periodontal disease, bone loss in my teeth, majorly receding gums. And I'd been to 3 different dentists trying to heal that. Because of the mold exposure, I had recurring sinus infections every 6 or 8 weeks. So my immune system was just trashed. It didn't have what it needed to fight any kind of bacteria that I encountered or virus. And I also didn't sleep at night. I always had insomnia. I no longer have it, but I had bad insomnia all my life, struggled to fall asleep at night. But as I moved into perimenopause, I also struggled with staying asleep, and I would wake up 3 or 4, sometimes 5 times a night. You can imagine with all of these things, literally the brain fog was incredible, so intense. I struggled to get all my thoughts together, which is why I ended up leaving my career. I was like, I just can't do it anymore. And I had 2 children also, which I learned later is quite a hit on mineral depletion in a body that's already deficient. So at that time, I met my business partner, a man named Dan Howard, and he introduced me to plant-based minerals, which is a funny kind of thing. Most people think of minerals as rocks, not plants, but these are actually minerals that are derived from ancient decomposed plants. And he gave it to me, and it was a little cup of liquid, and it was kind of a dark brown color. I was kind of worried to drink it, but I said, okay, I trust him. I drank it. Tasted like water, which was great because I'm also a sensitivo in terms of tastes and smells. I'm just a super sensitivo. So it was easy to take, and I started taking it every day. And after 2 months, first thing that I noticed is I went to my dentist. I had started to feel a little bit more energy, but at 2 months, I went to my dentist, and when she looked in my mouth, she was amazed. She was like, oh my gosh, what happened? The pH has changed. Your gums are pink and healthy. The dentin in your teeth, which had been soft and punky in many places, is hard. What are you doing? And I said, I don't know, but maybe it's this cup of minerals I've been drinking every day. Then 4 months in, the other thing that I was struggling with that I didn't mention is that I had flatlined adrenals, and they'd been flatlined for over a year. Worked with actually multiple different practitioners trying to jumpstart them. And finally, I was working with this naturopath who had given me hydrocortisone at my last prescription, which I never filled. But when we did the test and we were looking at the results, my adrenals were 1/3 of the way up the chart. So this is a huge turnaround from being completely crashed. And over the space of about 8 or 9 months, all of the symptoms that I mentioned, some that I'd had all my life, the elimination and gut problems and the sleep issues, completely went away. So today, I'm so happy to announce that I sleep through the night most nights, and I have no problem falling asleep. So that alone, just that alone, when I had so much anxiety around, was I going to be able to sleep, particularly when I traveled. And having that just completely not part of my life is truly miraculous.
Wow, what a beautiful story. And thank you so much for sharing that. I know a lot of people listening to that now are going to be like, I can so resonate with so many of those struggles. And one of the things that I would say that I step up on my soapbox and quote unquote preach to my clients, to my patients, and all of this is that the body is so miraculous and it's such a masterpiece and it has such beautiful wisdom inside of it that it can use something. And okay, I don't want to sound like I'm putting minerals in this category where, oh, it's just so simple, but it was so simple. Now you had to source the correct things and you had to get the correct ones, but it wasn't that you were doing all of these crazy protocols that were requiring you to leave your full time job because just trying to get your health back on track required a full time job of you doing 50 different supplements, spinning on your head backwards, getting in a cold plunge, all the things that this wellness culture is telling people that they need to do. Your adrenals are flatlined. You must need to X, Y, and Z. And I love that beautiful story that you shared because you were just taking the minerals. And then your dentist noticed a difference. And then it was multiple things were coming back online. And so many
Yes.
times we want to force the body to do things on our timeline. I'm taking this supplement. You better start performing an hour after I take it. And it doesn't work like that when all systems are shut down. But what a beautiful story that you just showcased there, your own personal journey of bringing all the systems back online.
Right.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So I want to transition because I know a lot of my women are experiencing a lot of hormone issues and talk about
Mhm.
what I call toxic wellness culture that tells people that they need to do all these steps. Hormones are a big, complicated piece, big tangle, so to speak, of how I kind of present it. It's not just a hormone issue, there's so many underlying pieces. But hormones are one of the biggest areas of confusion for women right now. Why do you think so many women who are struggling with hormones, even when they're feeling like they're doing everything right, what can they be doing? Why are they still struggling with these problems?
Yes. So it's so exciting to me to have you ask that question because there is a huge missing piece. I had adrenal issues, I had thyroid issues, and I had hormone issues. And those are what I kind of call that three-legged stool. They all work together, right? So if your hormones are out, maybe your adrenals are out, maybe your thyroid's out, and ultimately you want to get them all balanced. But if you start trying to just work at that level, you start and you can end up doing what I call playing whack-a-mole with your health, meaning you do one thing and another thing pops up over here, and then you go over and try to handle that symptom, and then another thing pops up over here. And what I say is what we want to do is go underneath all of it. So I want to talk about minerals, and I want to also talk about the conceptual framework of looking at the body as parts, pieces, systems, hormones, blood, fluids, gut microbiome. We have been taught to think of our body as disparate parts. And then when we have a problem with one of those disparate parts, sort of like if you owned a car and you have a problem, you take it to the mechanic because it's too complex. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to take it to the specialist. And we also tend to think about our bodies like vehicles in that we're going to go down to the gas tank and we're going to fill up the tank with gas. We're going to fill up the fluid, window shield washer fluid, and the radiator we're going to check and maybe check the oil. And a vehicle has reservoirs for these things and you fill it up and you know how much because there's a gauge and it tells you these things. And we've been taught to think of our body like that relative to things like the recommended daily allowances that we see on the back of nutritional facts panels or supplemental facts panels. And somebody said you need 1,000 milligrams of magnesium every day. And so you go down to the health food store and you buy a 1,000 milligram pill of magnesium and you pop it into your gut every day. That's like the car mentality. Somebody told me this is how much I need. And it's not just magnesium, it's magnesium and zinc and maybe selenium and chromium and potassium. And there's actually 18 macro minerals and micronutrients that your body needs. It's a large number and there's no way that you can get all those from going down to the health food store and filling up with pills. Now, a lot of people also think, well, aren't I getting all of those things from the foods I eat? And this is the problem is because the foods that we eat today are so much less nutrient dense than the foods our grandmother or grandparents ate, that we cannot eat enough volume to get all of the minerals that we need. And here's the problem with it. So when we think about our hormones and we think about, okay, how can I affect how hormones work on my body so that my body can come into balance and work really well, and I don't have this brain fog, or maybe if you're going into menopause, maybe night sweats or sleep issues, all the different issues that women have when their hormones are imbalanced. So why would hormones be imbalanced? Of course, certainly if you're entering into perimenopause, there's some big shifts happening. That totally makes sense. Or maybe if you're pregnant or a postpartum, or maybe using fertility drugs if you're struggling with fertility. But underneath everything, the energy generation system of your body relies on minerals. I like to think of it like a campfire. If you're going to build a campfire, you're going to need some heavy fuel. That's like the wood you're going to have to burn. And you're going to need some light tinder, something that lights easily, that it's going to be part of the fuel of your fire. And then you're going to need a match, something to ignite that fuel and turn it into burning fire energy. Now, inside every single cell in your body, you've got a whole bunch of these potential campfires. And the fuel, the wood, the heavy wood, is minerals. It's all minerals. And the tinder is amino acids. Many of them exist in your body. Minerals don't exist in your body unless you bring them in through your mouth. So they have to come in from the foods you eat and the other nutritional elements that you put in your mouth. And those two things, minerals and amino acids, are the fuel for your campfire. And the mitochondria are the thing that they're the match, the thing that allows you to light that fuel on fire and turn it into energy. Now, the problem is that if you go camping and you're going to try and build a fire and there's no good wood around, or the wood is all wet, you really struggle to light a campfire. And it's the same in your body. If you don't have enough fuel, your body cannot generate enough energy. And here's the thing. So minerals, they are the fuel for the energy production in your body. All of the structure in your entire body is minerals. If you took all the water out of your body, you'd just be a little pile of minerals. Think about that. And they are cofactors for every biosynthesis process in your body. So I'm telling you, I was doing a hormone replacement therapy back then when I was so ill, but it didn't do much for me because I didn't have the mineral cofactors in my system at efficient levels to make those processes of utilization of those hormones work properly. So when you don't have enough fuel, the body doesn't generate enough energy and it has to pick and choose. And it says, well, I really can't do that whole process with your thyroid of making inactive to active forms of thyroid. I can't figure out how to find all of the minerals necessary to do the cofactor stuff that utilizes your hormones to manage energy production, as an example. You don't have enough energy to remove the inflammation that's going on in your gut, or worst of all, your nervous system is receiving this message constantly. We don't have what we need. We don't have what we need. I don't have what I need. Go looking. I need something. Go get some sugar. Go get some sugar. Maybe salt. We need salt. Sugar. We need salt. We need it now. Get up. Go. And your cortisol levels raise. You end up feeling a low level of chronic anxiety, sometimes depression. In acute places, it can be panic. And all of this is just a cycle of unrest in the body.
Yeah, it's like a perfect storm of
It's a
all these
perfect storm.
pieces happening. And when you said that, it just triggered something in my mind as well, because this is something I have a lot of listeners, and people who are so well meaning and intended, and they want to take care of their health in the best way possible. They're taking all these different supplements. And I'm like, if your body doesn't need these supplements, you're wasting mitochondria, you're wasting energy. Your body is having to metabolize all of these supplements when it could be utilizing what energy it has available to taking care of detox or to help your hormones or to do all these different things. And so I think you beautifully presented there how minerals are so important to this piece. And again, coming back to the simplicity of everything, the
Mhm.
body is so wise that it is actually less is more. Like you were
Mhm.
saying, you were on HRT prior and you're experiencing, I know these words you didn't use, but I would say the greatest health you've ever experienced in your entire life by
Absolutely.
incorporating minerals. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be so complicated. It doesn't have to be so hard. We can live a vibrant, fun, exciting life without having to make health a full time job. And so the next question I had for you, which I really do believe you may have answered it in that last question, but if people are looking at certain symptoms or patterns, is there any specific symptom or pattern? I mean, I know you broke down adrenal
Mhm.
burnout and cortisol rising and hormones and thyroid issues and so forth, but is there something where somebody should go, yes, I should
Yeah.
probably look at minerals first? Because I would say, listening to you and knowing what I know about the human body, like, duh, let's try minerals first. But is there anything that you would say from your expert
Yeah.
opinion?
Yeah. Well, and first of all, we'll give you a link you can put in your show notes. It's to a mineral deficiency quiz, and it's
Cool.
really great. And it helps people, first of all, tie many of their symptoms they wouldn't normally think of as mineral deficiency to understanding. And then with the results, they'll get some good reading specifically relevant to the symptoms that they mentioned. And it will give them an idea of where they fall on, are they really super critically mineral deficient or depleted, or are they maybe just doing pretty well, but should continue there. So there's kind of a range. So that could be really helpful. There are several things. First of all, any cramping or twitching, involuntary muscle movements, those, and sometimes you can feel those in your gut as well. Those are all signs of mineral deficiency. Calcium tightens a muscle and potassium releases a muscle. So you need to have them both so that you get that balance. And when things are imbalanced and when you don't have enough energy production available to release a muscle, you'll end up with all sorts of weird twitches and cramping. So that's a definite sign. And I remind people that could be night cramps, that could be menstrual cramps, that could be waking up with a crick in your neck. It could be the eye twitch. All of those things are signs of mineral deficiency. The other one is recurring headaches. And even if they're just maybe sinus kinds of things, recurring headaches are a really strong sign of it. Sleep issues. And this is one people don't recognize. People think, well, nowadays, a lot of people know that magnesium can help with sleep. I don't actually recommend using just magnesium alone in general. And we can talk about that related to what you kind of brought about the way the body works and why it doesn't really help your body to just take a handful of pills every day, why that
Yes.
is not supporting.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
cut you off.
No, no, fine. No, that's fine. And sometimes I go on. So I wanted to give you some chance to respond, my friend.
I would absolutely love to talk about. Well, first off, a lot of the listeners may not know this, but there's actually 7 different types of magnesium. So just popping a magnesium pill thinking you are putting yourself in a relaxation state and wondering why you're getting all of a sudden this really weird gut cramping and you've got diarrhea, wrong kind of magnesium. But I digress. Caroline, will you talk about why
Yeah.
taking just magnesium doesn't work?
Yeah. Well, the reframe is this, and it kind of goes back to that whole conversation we mentioned about recommended daily allowances. So, back in the 1940s, there were a lot of food shortages that we were experiencing from the war, and they had a dust bowl that had happened in the Midwest and all sorts of problems. In fact, in 1936, before this, a man had brought to the US Congress a paper about the major critical issue of mineral deficiency that we were having with our soils in the big areas of cultivation in the Midwest, and what were we going to do about it? And what have we done? Nothing. Now there are some movements towards regenerative farming and no-till farming and stuff that are helping, but there's a major issue with getting minerals back into the soils so that the foods we eat will also be nutrient dense so that you get all of the minerals you need so your body actually works properly. But it really goes back to this the RDAs and this idea that somebody can tell you how much of any mineral you need. And it's a misunderstanding. So the thing about minerals, and if the best way to look at it is look in nature. The interesting thing about nature is that all cellular life on the planet at the mitochondrial level, so the energy generation level, they all work the same,
Mm.
basically the same. And what's interesting is they all require minerals. All of that, the energy generation at the mitochondrial level, all requires minerals. And what's most interesting is they all require the same ratio of minerals. And I call it a balanced ratio of minerals because minerals work together. They don't work singly. And if you think about in nature, wherever we have a concentration of any one mineral, which is a very powerful substance, any mineral is a very powerful substance. And when you concentrate it, it actually becomes toxic to cellular life in that area. So you think of maybe Yellowstone, where they have all the concentration of sulfur. Sulfur is something your body absolutely needs, but in concentration, it's not healthy. So if you think about a forest, I have a big picture of a forest that I always keep up on my screen over here. And if you thought about taking a wheelbarrow of magnesium, which is the equivalent of 1,000 milligrams of magnesium in a pill form that you're putting into your gut microbiome. Now, what do we know about the gut microbiome? It's filled with all this microflora and microorganisms, fungi, beneficial bacteria, all sorts of things that work together. And when they're in balance, when they're all working together in the right ratios, everything works really well. But when it's out of balance, when there's a concentration of different things, it wreaks havoc with that ecosystem. So our gut works more like a forest than a car. So the idea that I can take 1,000 milligrams of magnesium and throw it in my gut and have that be a good thing is actually a complete misunderstanding. What we want to do is put minerals into our body in balanced ratios. Now, the other thing is we think, okay, somebody tells us, oh, I've got a lab formulation of all these minerals for you, and it's the perfect formulation. And I'm like, how would you know? Because your body is completely different than my body in terms of genetics and epigenetics and our lifestyle and our eating style and our stage of life. And are we pregnant, or are we an athlete, or do we sit at a computer all day? All of these things change. So your need and utilization of minerals in your body is completely dynamic and specific to you at any given moment. So there is no way that anyone can tell you how much of any particular mineral you need every day. And that's exactly how nature works, because the redwood tree can't go, hey, I need 1,000 milligrams of magnesium over here every day. Bring it to me. I need so much potassium and chromium and selenium and vanadium and copper and molybdenum, things you've never heard of, right? Instead, what happened is nature actually developed mineral-rich molecules, natural molecules that have all of the minerals, all cellular life on the planet needs in the natural ratios that they're needed, so that they can ubiquitously, meaning everywhere, deliver all the minerals to cellular systems, providing everything at the very foundational level that those systems need for structure, for energy generation, and for biosynthesis.
I had such a struggle there to not scream, yes, out loud when you were talking about it, because it's like, and I never pronounce this word correctly, so the listeners know I have a tendency to do this, but inanimate objects versus aminate objects, right? The
Animate.
ones like the car that you talked about, that you just throwing in the fuel into the fuel tank, and then you drive your car and it burns that fuel, and then you go fill up at the gas station. The body, nature, the forest, the trees, the plants, the animals, none of us function that way. So you spoke about it so beautifully. You can't just dump 1,000 milligrams of magnesium or dump this supplement because you heard all of these benefits of it. You have to really, like you were talking about, get down to the cellular level. And so beautifully said. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Awesome. I'm so glad it resonates.
Yes. And I know my listeners are like, oh my gosh, I got to learn more. So I'm so excited about that quiz. It will be in the show notes. It's already there if you're listening to this right now. I want to transition a little bit as we start to wrap up. Not fully yet, but you wrote a book. So Beam Minerals is the actual minerals that you co-founded, and you are CEO of the company. I've had a chance to actually use those. You
Good.
have Micro Boost and the electrolyze, I want to say.
Yeah.
So it's the electrolytes with the one's fulvic. Actually, will you take a moment to explain the difference there before we
Yeah.
transition into your book?
Sure. So my company has two flagship products, and one is called Electrolyze, and it is a fulvic product. And fulvic is an amazing mineral-rich molecule that not only has all the minerals your body needs in the proper ratios, it's also extremely extremely bioavailable. So your body recognizes it as a beneficial substance. It easily absorbs it. And then that molecule does something that no other molecule can do, which is it changes its polarity, allowing the molecule to deliver the minerals directly into your cells where you need them. So when you take that pill of magnesium, 90% of it ends up in the toilet. 90%. Maybe, depending on the health of your gut lining, 10% could get absorbed into your bloodstream. But remember, those mitochondria, the campfires, are inside your cells. So, how much actually gets into the cells? Only 5 to 7% of that 10%. So, a very small amount. And that's just one molecule of magnesium. But with the fulvic, you're able to deliver the full spectrum of minerals already in the natural ratios directly into the cell. And now the cell, in its infinite wisdom, gets to say, I need magnesium right now. Oh, I need molybdenum. Oh, I need some vanadium over here. Oh, we need some zinc. We need more zinc. We need more zinc. Oh, some potassium. We need potassium. Oh, calcium. We need that. And so now you've got everything always available. It's a complete game changer. That's electrolyze. Now, the other one is called MicroBoost, and it's a blue bottle. I guess I could show the pictures, but this is MicroBoost, and it's what is called humic. So humic is another mineral-rich molecule. I call it Mother Nature's janitor. It basically hangs out in your gut and your bloodstream, and it moves around creating balance by gathering up when there's a concentration of any particular thing, it will gather it, but it also binds with heavy metals, biowaste, toxins, viral detritus, nanoplastics, takes them out of your body. So glyphosate, spike proteins, senescent or zombie cells, all of these things bind to the molecule, and then ultimately it takes it out of your body. So an incredible tool to have constantly, gently detoxing you all the time.
Keyword gently. I love that you said that because people, again, well intending, want to do these crazy detoxes, heavy metals, all the buzzwords. Again, getting back into that wellness culture, the craze, the buzzwords, the trendiness, the
Yeah.
things that people want to do without understanding that there's foundational pieces that need to be put in place before you do these kind of things, or
Yeah.
you can actually cause yourself more harm than when you first started. So I love that. And I can totally attest to, she said it in the beginning about her friend who I think is now the co founder with you of the minerals
Yes.
that gave you, I can attest. So when she said it was this dark drink, this black, almost like black water, but it tastes like water, it's really, truly, in fact, the truth. So it's the micro boost that shows up as that dark substance, and then the electrolyze is clear. So
It's golden. It's a little golden color. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, golden, yeah, clear
Yeah.
golden, I love that.
And
That's
this is the
better with
cool thing, at least about beam minerals, and there are other fulvic and humic substances. You can use something called shilajit, which is
mhm.
from the Himalayas. It's a little bit challenging to use. It tastes bad, so you might want to take it as a pill, but also you have to absolutely ensure that that substance is pure because sadly people have learned that Westerners will pay a lot for it. So they take a small amount of shilajit and they mix it with something else. So you just have to be really careful. One of the things I did in the book, The Mineral Reset, was create a buyer's guide for people. So if you want to get mineral replenished, here's how you would go about finding a product that you can trust and that will work with your lifestyle.
I love that. And speaking of the book, because I want to go right into that. So this is the book. For those of you watching, you'll see that I'm holding it, but it's called The Mineral Reset, and it's an essential guide to replenishing your body and restoring your health. So you wrote this after years of studying the mineral topic and getting your health back. What was the biggest message that you felt women needed to hear that wasn't already being said? What prompted the whole writing of this?
There are really a couple of messages, and the first is that your body is not a car. It does not work like a car. It's a natural ecosystem. And if you're trying to impact your body with lots of different things and you're not feeling good, you might want to slow down, start developing a relationship with your body and treat it more like you would your garden rather than your car. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is if you want more energy, the best source of energy on earth is from the earth. It's minerals.
Yeah, imagine that. The earth is giving us what we need because
Yes.
we're part of that ecosystem, and I love it. It's so beautiful. And I know you talked about this a lot, and it's such a key concept for what I speak about too is just we're not compartmentalized. It's not focusing the liver, it's not going after cardiovascular or the lymphatic or the GI issues. It's the entire piece, the entire ecosystem of our entire body as multiple trillions of cells that make up this one big piece of what some people would like to say is just this physical suit of skin and bones and organs and blood vessels and things like that, but it's not. We've already talked about so much about the intelligence of the body. And so I just love that you talk about that too in this book and really showcase and share with people that there is wisdom and that building a beautiful relationship with the body, which is something I talk about all the time, is super important to do. And it's easy when you have a relationship with your body to be able to source information from it too. So you can support it with the electrolytes or the micro boost and different things. And I know you have beautiful sprays that people can use. I would
Yes.
love for you to, I know we already talked about the actual two main flagship products, but this I thought was really cool and unique. And there's not other companies doing stuff like that.
No, yeah. So we have a product and it's called Instalights. I'll hold it up for you guys in case anyone's watching. And so I talked about that tiny molecule fulvic, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a quick primer on it. So if you hold your hand in a fist and you imagine that that's one single cell in your body, and then you think of the head of a pin and how small it is relative to your fist, the fulvic molecule is the size of the head of the pin. It's very, very, very small. And the beautiful thing about it is all the cells in your body recognize fulvic as a beneficial substance. So the lining, the membranes of your cells are there to keep toxins and bad things out. So when something hits up against the cell wall, the cell is kind of like having a peephole in your door. You can look out and see who's out there before you open the door. Well, that's what your body has the ability to do. It's like, oh, that's magnesium. That's good. Let it in. And now you've got one magnesium molecule in your cell. That's cool. But imagine it saying every time a fulvic molecule hits up against the cell, it actually interacts with the cell membrane, causing a new channel to open. So what we say is it increases cell wall permeability, which means you get more uptake of nutrients into your cell, which means you end up with more energy generation in your body. A human body, an adult human, if you have all of the fuel needed, can generate about 1,200 watts of electricity every day. That's enough to plug in your toaster and your blender. So it's a lot of energy. But if you only have enough fuel to generate maybe 800 or 600, or for many people, way less than that, then the body doesn't have the energy to do what it needs to do. It has to pick and choose. And it's like, well, can't deal with that, can't do this. And your hair starts falling out and your skin starts looking dull. And you just feel this general malaise and you're not sleeping well and you're feeling anxious and you're feeling maybe depressed, maybe panicked at certain times. All of these things and all of these chronic symptoms. And as a practitioner, I'm sure you have the experience that people don't come now with one or two symptoms. They come with 5, 6, 7 more, a whole host of symptoms. Imagine that each symptom is one boat sitting on the sand of a beach. And when the tide comes in, all of the boats lift off the sand together. And that's what happens when you go underneath your symptoms. Rather than trying to solve the symptom by symptom, you go underneath and provide the fuel in a very, very accessible way to your body. Now, the entire energy generation in your body goes up, and it's like the tide coming in and all of the symptoms. That's why over 8 or 9 months, I had all of these symptoms resolve because my body, because it's amazing, given the proper fuel, can do so much more than we imagine.
My gosh. Yes. I love your metaphors, by the way. I speak a lot in metaphors when I'm talking to patients because it really helps put word pictures to things that people can see 7 boats rising and they can see them sitting on the sand and going after one symptom of hormone dysregulation. You end up in the whack-a-mole situation that you started with in the very beginning of the episode, where you're just another boat comes up on the shore and you're like, crap, I got this one boat fixed. We're out in the ocean. Now this guy's over here. What's going on? And we just kind of are existing in this place, in this culture, again, not trying to come heavy handed against this wellness culture, but we have to speak out about what is happening because you're not wrong when you say patients coming to me with multiple symptoms and things that they've seen other practitioners for and unable to unravel the mess that their body has shown up to me with. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, we got to get to the root cause, the bottom. Why is your body so angry?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the general thought process with well meaning practitioners, and I want to say there's so many doctors that are trying to do things the right way, but what ends up happening is they're looking at a lab report. Mind you, you've already spent thousands of dollars getting all these labs run. And I'm not saying labs are not important. What I'm saying is you're spending thousands of dollars doing all this and then you end up with another $1,000 worth of supplements trying to attack every single hole in the lab work. And what Caroline is saying is the body is so intelligent. It's so wise. You hear me saying that all the time. I love that you get to hear a different voice saying that because it's just beautiful when it's just not like Dr. Brooke always says that. Now you're hearing other people say that. The body is so wise that
Yeah.
if we can actually support the foundational cellular pieces of what's going on underneath, maybe all those 7 boats might go out into the water and everything be fine again. And there might be something still sticky sticking around that might need some additional support. But great, you got 6 boats out there. And now we
Exactly.
can really isolate and work on what needs to be worked on because foundationally your cells are like, yay, hip, hip, hooray. I'm feeling great. I can do what I need to do and have all that beautiful energy to exist and have fun in life and enjoy and all those kind of things. So, Caroline, thank you so much for being here. I've really, truly enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I always love to talk about minerals.
Yeah, it's so fun. So, one of the final questions, and I will give you a chance, I want to have you share at the end on how people can connect and get in touch with you and Beam and all of those and read your book and get your book. But, final question prior to all of that, I love to ask my guests because the show is called Beyond Wellness Culture, and we're going outside of that crazy sense of overwhelm. And I think you've really kind of beautifully orchestrated all the way through the entire episode. And you might answer it differently. So I want to ask you, what would be one thing that you would have a listener walk away with? If they remembered nothing else from everything you shared earlier on in the episode, what would be the one takeaway?
The one thing is your body runs on minerals and you cannot get enough minerals from the foods you eat. You need to supplement, or what I say, you need to replenish. Supplementation is that handful of pills. Replenishment is something like humic and fulvic or electrolytes and microboost that is just so available for your body. So if you want to feel better, get some minerals into your body.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. So, how can people connect with you? How can they get your products? How can they get the book? All those fun things.
Yeah, if people are interested in learning more, I highly recommend you go to mineralresetbook.com and get a book. But actually, don't just get one book for yourself, get one book for a friend, because with the book, you'll receive tickets to a book in our series. I'm just finishing up one series now, and we'll be doing another one in September. And it's basically like having a guide for the book. So it's nice to have a map, but it's a lot easier if you have a guide who can just walk you through a process. So there's that possibility. But you should also consider getting a book for somebody in your life who has lost hope of feeling better, because I'm telling you, getting minerals into them could be a huge boon to their system. If you want to connect with me, you can go to carolineallen.official on Instagram, or you can get the Beam Minerals products, which I highly recommend, at beamminerals.com. Just go to beamminerals.com, and I suggest getting the advanced set. That's those 2 flagship products that will just be a great foundation for your mineral health.
So good. Thank you so much. And all of those links, you guys, will be in the show notes. So click down there. And I appreciate you all for listening this week. And we will see you next week for another brand new episode. Have a very blessed week.